like condensed version of the tiling program that I had done in December. That was like a full day thing, and we had 4 speakers, and we got to tour ADS. So I apologize, there's no plant tour today, and that your stuff was just me speaking. So at least that day we kind of mixed it up, and they got to hear me and then 3 others, but today it's just me. That day I talked about the economics of tiling, which I'm going to hit on today, and then Daryl Simpson talked about the water control structure study that they did in Muhlenberg County, and I am going to share some of that data with you. And then Jerry McIntosh from NRCS, he talked about tiling for your soil type, which looking around here, you know, I know we're going to hit all the different soil types in McLean County based on who's here today. And then Truett Clemens from the Bigot Tiling in Illinois talked about subsurface irrigation. So we're not going to talk about subsurface today, but the other 3 topics I am going to hit on. So, and then also kind of tell you guys some of the study that's getting ready to occur here in McLean County with the water control structure. So I'm super excited about that. So the first 3 things that I'm going to talk about, of course, a lot of you guys I know already have some tile, so you know this, but the research improvements from tile, estimation on tiling costs, and then the economic analysis of tile. First, kind of go through some of the improvements that we see whenever you do tile. First and foremost, you know, most response to tiling is on poorly drained soil, or Carnex. You know, the higher the clay content, the better off you are to tile, and the closer spacing you have to have. It changes the drainage class of soil, so it can go from a poorly drained soil to a moderately drained soil. Your soils warm up faster in the spring, so you guys can get it, as long as it's not raining and we don't have a monsoon, you should be able to get in those fields to plant sooner when you tile, because it requires 2 times more energy needed to warm soil or warm water than soil. So if your soil's saturated because it's not tiled, you know, it's going to take a whole lot more time to be able to dry that up and get out there. So you're looking at a 1 to 2 week gain on a planting date whenever you have your fields tiled. Tile reduces chances of water damage to a crop in a wet spring, reduces compaction potential of spring, which I know last year I had a lot of compaction problems in beans come in through this office. So that may be able to alleviate some of that problem. This allows tillage, planting, and harvest of drier soils, because that compaction takes place whenever your soils are wet, and reduces the need for quick tillage, such as disking before planting, which I'm not a huge fan of tillage, but I understand that not every farm can be a no-till farm, and that's fine. So, also, tile reduces the need for some nutrients, which is a little bit of extra money in your pocket because you're not having to pay extra money to put these nutrients down. Zinc deficiency symptoms on early planted corn are reduced whenever you've got drain tile. Nitrogen losses are reduced because it improves the soil drainage, and nitrogen rates can be reduced, probably, not in every case, but has the potential to be reduced 25 pounds an acre whenever your ground is tiled. And that's a pretty good chunk of change, 25 pounds per acre. And then also, it increases your chance of adequate yield even on a drought year. So 2012, for example, I don't know everyone's yields, but there were a few guys that I did talk to that had some tiled ground, and their yields weren't quite as bad on the tiled ground versus their non-tiled ground on the drought year. And that's because, and we'll talk a little bit about this here in a second, that tile lowers the water table. So it makes those roots work harder to grow deeper. And if it's not tiled, the roots stay shallow because the water's right there at the top, so they don't have to work hard. They don't have to grow any deeper. And so on a drought year, you know, you're looking at a water table. Your water may be, 10 inches below the soil surface, and if your ground's tiled, your roots are down there, so they're getting it. Whereas if your water table's up towards the top, once that soil dries out the top 6 inches, that's where your roots are, so you're not getting any water. This also, like I was just saying, encourages deep and healthy root systems. I found this little quote that I kind of liked from the University of Missouri research agronomist, that tile drainage allows for better soil aeration and root development, which can be crucial in drought years. A lot of that's because we have a perched water table in the spring close to the surface, and without that tile drainage, the roots develop relatively shallow. And then with the water level slows down and the roots aren't very deep. So just kind of backing up what I just said. And then I have these nice little graphics showing you how that root system does develop better and the roots grow deeper whenever your ground is tiled. And then just another picture of it. So obviously this one right here is an example of a root system with the lower water table. So the ground's tiled versus whenever your ground is not tiled and your water table is much closer to the surface. And the last improvement from tiling we'll talk about, and I'll talk a little bit more about these water control structures in a second. But whenever your tile is paired up with the water control structure, that can reduce nitrate flow into your ditches and streams, which goes back to the ag water quality plans that we were just talking about before we started. Studies have found that the reduction in annual nitrate load in drain flow, it ranges from about 15 to 75%. I know that's a huge range, but a lot of that depends on your location, climate, soil, and your cropping practices. So, moral of this story, is it worth tiling your farm? And an anonymous person said, either way you're going to pay for it. You can either pay for purchasing the tile and getting it put in, installation, or you'll pay for it by not having the yield increase. Questions so far? On my why we should tile? Okay. Unfortunately, we do not have a lot of data that's been collected in Kentucky on tile drainage. The majority of studies have been at Ohio State. So Ohio has done a lot. There's been some done in Indiana and Illinois. But majority of what I'm using today comes from the University of Ohio. And this right here is just kind of showing you they've done some 4 long-term drainage studies on yields in Ohio. When I say long-term, I mean like 20 years worth of data collection there. One of their basic study treatments is first, they have the undrained, no improvements whatsoever. And then they do another treatment that's surface drainage only. So they do the open channels, and a lot of people here do the open channels, and then the subsurface drainage. So whenever you compare your yields, this right here is your untreated, and again, this is a long-term study in Ohio, which I understand they have different soil types there, and a shorter growing season, but you can see that corn yields were a little over 60 bushels an acre on the untreated. On just the surface treatments and the open channels, they were pushing a little over 90 bushels. The subsurface drainage, it looks close to 110 bushels. And then this C is combined when they do subsurface and do the channels. They were pushing over 120 bushels per acre. So this long-term study in Ohio proves that there is a place for tile drain. There we go. And then it is needed. It has proven benefits. I mean, the yields speak alone, the increase in yields. So. And that right there is just a similar study to show the yield increase in corn and oats and soybeans, which their oats would be our wheat here. So now they started doing these studies, or their research at Ohio State was initiated in 1984, but in 1989, then Dr. Larry Brown has taken over and does an amazing job. I know that, like the guys from ADS, for example, David went up to Ohio and went to a tiling school up there that Dr. Larry Brown put on. So, and he has wonderful things to say about that. And he was there with people from all over the nation. So these guys are the drain tile gurus.
Cary, have they done any studies where you drain tile plus we're doing the new cover crops in conjunction with it, like the radishes or turnips or anything to open the ground up some more.
We're doing, and I say we're, I just mean some people in this area are doing cover crop studies. Now, whether or not I know one of those is on a Carnac, so I would assume that it is tile.
It'd be interesting to see what, if they had some tile, one tile,
Yes, I will talk to some of the people that are doing those and ask them if they happen to be on like a tiled and untiled area. That might be something we can do in the future. If not, don't let me forget to write that down, Paul J.
If you got a poorly graded field, and you have an analysis going throughout the year, and your soil calculation throughout the year is much better, you need to put more nitrogen out there when you plant, and it's almost that better, right? And then you can get better yield.
Yes. Oh yeah, because whenever when that drain tile goes in, like I said, your root system will go down. Things can, I guess, leach down easier, percolate through the soil easier. So
What I'm getting at is with the tiling. When you hit the field with the planter, well, when you pick it out out there, you can put more because the soil's in better shape, and it's going to hold that happens.
right, so really,
It's going to hold more happens.
yes. So you shouldn't have to put more. You should be able to decrease the amount that you're putting on there because it's holding it there.
Well, what I'm saying is, you're going to be able. Well, you could put less if you want 150 bushel, but if you want 200 bushel, and your temptation is higher on your soil sample that you pull, you want to go for 200. Because you tiled it, your soil sample that you got back says that if you put, instead of putting, say, 160 pounds of anhydrous, it says it can hold 190. But 190, it's not going to leach out. The soil can't hold it. You can go for 200. Correct?
I would assume, yes. I'll have to, let's see, next week I will see one of our soil specialists, so I will double check with him first. But I would assume.
So you can take a poorly or marginal field outlet and bring it up to a leach.
A moderately well-drained field, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, Talon does, it can help change your drainage classes. Yes.
And take an average poor field to a moderate to maybe a pretty good field.
Yes, you can. This is one of the, I say one, some of the studies that they collected at Ohio State, and there was a fourth field treatment that they did. I can't remember what it was now because I made this in December, but it wasn't one that I thought that we did here, so I just stuck to conventional tillage, no-till, and strip-till. And this is over, I mean, you guys can see this is a very lengthy study. This is over a lot of years, so it's not something they just did 1 year and collected the data from. But on corn yields, you can see and the majority of us around here rotate, so a huge bump in yields between the undrained and drained fields. I mean, that's a pretty significant yield bump over that long of a period of time. And same way with soybeans. I mean, you're looking right there at 15 more bushels per acre on tiled versus non-tiled fields. And that's just in conventional plow. I mean, you guys can see the difference in the no-till and the strip-till as well. So I guess to kind of simplify that, on the rotational corn then, you're looking at a 37% yield increase on conventional tillage, 23% increase on no-till, and 27% yield increase on strip tillage. Pretty significant yield bump just by installing drain tile. So to average those numbers out then, whether you're conventional tillage, no-till, strip till, you're looking at about a 30% yield increase on your corn by drain tile. And again, this is data collected in Ohio. Their soils aren't quite as good as ours, so we may not see a whole 30%, but it will be pretty close to that. And then with our soybeans, about a 23% yield increase by installing drain tile. Oh, sorry. So, it's all of that to say, again, you're looking at this 30% bump in corn, 23 in soybeans, and then there's this nice little further bump with controlled drainage, and that's when you've got if you have a poor soil, if you start out with bad, terrible soil, you could have a 36%. If you've got just an adequate soil and you tile, then you're looking at a 30%. Does that make sense? Depends on what you're starting out with.
One of the things you're not showing, and I saw on our farm, you wouldn't believe how much yield bump you get on wheat, especially.
Yeah, that's the bad thing about us not having data here in Kentucky and having to use Ohio's. Is they're not a wheat state. They do oats instead of wheat. So we're looking to change that we do not have data. Dr. Lloyd Murdoch, I don't know if any of you all are familiar with Dr. Murdoch or not, but he has agreed to work with me on developing some studies on tile here in Kentucky, particularly here in McLean County. And then also, I was going to save this, but I'll go and tell y'all. Dr. Cary Knott and Cary is originally from Davis County. She was a Murphy from Davis County. But she is our grain crop specialist out of Princeton, and she worked with Daryl Simpson last year in Muhlenberg County to do a study on the water control structures. And we're going to do that study in McLean County this year. So I'm very excited about that because I have a lot of faith in these water control structures. But we'll get to that in just a second. Paul J, I wish I had wheat data on the drain tile. So unfortunately I don't. So the benefits, I think, you guys, if they're proven, they're there. A lot of you guys already have drain tile. You know what it can do for your yields. So I guess now we'll talk a little bit about the cost of it. This right here, these are average prices. Please don't go to a salesman or a contractor like, hey, Cary told me that this is the price of fiber. This is the price of insulation. This is average. But this is what you're looking at for 4, 6, and 8 inch pipe, and this is per foot. And again, that's average price. And around here, 4 inch. I know, Brent and John use 4 inch, Stephen uses 4 inch. I think the Haydens use 3 inch. But mostly around here, everything we put in the ground's 4 inch. As far as lateral spacing goes, kind of general rule of thumb, I know a lot of people around here put them on 40-foot centers. And we're going to talk about lateral spacing again here in just a little bit. But for this, for today, we are going to look at the price of 30-foot centers. Just because, too, it costs more, and so it looks a lot better when I give you guys a higher price. And then show you how quickly you can make that up. So we're going to talk about using 30-foot centers. So on 30-foot centers, then your total cost, installation cost, and again, this is an average. Just called up a couple of our contractors around here, asked them their prices per acre, and then averaged out the cost. So if you go 4 inch, 30-foot centers, you're looking at about $850 for installation cost per acre. So, I guess you can assume that with insulation, with pipe, it's going to be roughly $980 per acre to tile your fields on 30-foot centers with 4 inch pipe. Now we're gonna switch gears a little bit, kind of get off the cost thing and talk just a little bit about lateral spacing. Back last summer, I had talked to a couple of, I guess, seasoned agents about wanting to do this tiling program and do an educational thing on tiling. And somebody had made the comment, they're like, that's great, we love it, but there's no need to do it in McLean County. All those guys tile. You've got ADS, you've got a tile plant right there. That county is tiled frontwards and backwards. You don't need it. It's like, well, okay, that's your opinion, great, I appreciate it, but I'm still gonna do it. Because I don't think we've quite reached that potential. And so Jerry McIntosh, NRCS, who's one of our state soil scientists, has mapped this state frontwards and backwards. If you ever need to know anything about soil, that's your man. So I stole this map from him. But he did the research, and a little less than half of McLean County is tiled. That's it. So there's still a lot more tileable ground here. A lot. And this green, what you see is the best soils for drainage. These are the soils that most likely need the most tile in them. And so looking here, I think, so Donald, Nolan, Gerald, I think you're green. So Paul J, maybe part of you's green, part of you's red. That Karnak is always fun stuff, isn't it? So let's see. So I know you're mostly Karnak, right?
No, we're mixed.
Okay, you're mixed. Gerald, Belknap. Do you have Belknap soil? And then Nolan, Belknap and Hosmer, Loring. Okay, Jack, what? Okay, and you've got a little bit of Karnak. Okay. Yeah. Yes. And that's, and two, I think then what we put them on a lot further centers. Right. And now general rule of thumb's 40. So, and it depends, and I'm going to show you a slide too. A lot of it will depend on your soil type. This, and I just thought this was, I stole this from Jerry too, thought this was interesting. All those blue lines are man-made drainage, so that's all tile. And I'm going to shut that light off so you guys can see it a little bit better. And this is in the Silway Rumsey area. Right there's Cypress Creek. So, there's quite a bit of tile in there. But there's still a lot more that can be tiled. So that's why I felt like there was still a need for this program and to educate people about tile. I thought those were two pretty neat maps that I wanted to show you guys. Well, hang on, let's see. Okay. This is the recommendation that Jerry McIntosh had presented that day based on your soil type. So the higher the clay content, the closer those centers need to be. So, Paul J, 30-foot centers on that Karnak. Our belt naps don't have to be 40. 50 or 60 should be fine on belt naps. And then the Henshaw, that's up 81, closer to Glenville. The Henshaw series is. And if you have not, if you do not know your soil type or do not know the clay content, this book right here, even though it was made, I think this book is older than me, it is still a fantastic resource. And some of the soils have different names now. So like the Loring is no longer Loring here, it's now Hosmer. But this is a great resource to know the clay content, your soil type. And again, higher the clay content, the closer those centers need to be. And so that's why for today's presentation on economics, I chose to use 30-foot centers, because really here we don't need anything closer than 30-foot centers. Okay, questions on that part before I get to water control structures, the price of those? Yes.
I got outside of the hill around my kitchen. Put in control structures. I'm saying, like, last 2 years, 3 times, what, 5 to 30 foot before?
I don't think 25 is, no. But, you know, I'm not the expert on it.
It's hard to do that, I understand that.
Yeah. And that's why I think some of that might have to do with the contour and that, the layout of that hill. But I think it's a little excessive myself. But I'm not a talent expert.
Who's right, who's wrong?
Jerry McIntosh. I'll give you his contact information, and Jerry will be able to tell you, because he knows that stuff forwards and backwards. Anytime that, like, if I have questions, I go to Jerry or one of our soil specialists. So, but I'll put you in touch with Jerry, and he'll be able to, for sure, give you the right answer.
Sure.
Yes.
And it depends where you are, what answer you get to that. Around here, it's excessive. You know, Iowa, they wouldn't even dream of putting it that way. They wouldn't even consider putting it that way. I talked to people on the farm and share show. If you talk about putting it that way, they would think you're crazy. They wouldn't think about putting it half that way. I talked to them about it up there. Of course, they throw money around. You know, they grow 300 bushels of corn on a rock up there.
The water control structures are fairly new. ADS sells them, and then there's another company, AgriDrain, has them as well. They are, you know, they're a little costly, but as far as the yield bump, that these guys pay for themselves in 2 years, which I'll show that data here in just a little bit. They come in the 6, 8, and 10 foot, so there's a good variety there. The recommendation on those for a Class A slope, so 0 to 2% slope, would be 1 per 20 acres. And for this, I'm going to use the 10-foot one, so we're going to deal with the $695. I'll go ahead and jump to the main thing here. With purchasing the water control structure, you know, the fittings that have to come with it. Again, average on labor, the installation, and you're looking at about $1,152 per 20 acres for the installation of the control structure. So at about $58 per acre. I'm going to skip over that one. And get to the good stuff, get to the data. In Ohio, when they did the study with the control structures, hang on here. My slide got messed up somewhere. Okay. Well, we'll go back to the talent economics, and we'll put this assumption together. Whenever you have that 30% yield bump in your corn, your 23% soybeans, and trying to be optimistic, we're gonna at least, it's not going to drop under $4. At $4 corn, $11 soybeans, that's an increased revenue per acre of $160.80 on corn and $106.26 for soybeans. So if you rotate, you're looking at an average of $103 increased revenue per acre per yield on drain tile. Not bad whenever we've got $4 corn. It gets me all so upset I can't even say it. So if we do hit that $4 corn, with the cost being $980 an acre to tile, you're looking at a $130 increase in revenue because of yield bump. Tiling should pay itself off in about 7 years, if not sooner. I mean, if we have weather like 13 and 14, it's going to pay itself a lot quicker because of the yields. If prices go back up, keep those fingers crossed, it'll be even quicker than 7 years. I think that tiling is one of the best return on investments that you can put on your farm, or you get the best return on investment out of that. So then if you were to add, I guess, the controlled drainage plus your water control structure, you're gonna look at an additional $30 increased revenue per year. So with the water control structure, I'd say it costs $58 per acre. It'll give you an extra $30.70 per year. They pay themselves off in under 2 years. So water control structures, I think are definitely worth it. If you can get your money out of them in less than 2 years, and plus some of the additional benefits on those that we're going to talk about here in just a second. So, put it all together, all this nice fun money that you guys are going to get out of this. When you combine drain tile and water control structures, and I assume a corn soybean rotation, you're looking at about $164 increased revenue per acre per year. Not too bad. And if you put the two together, tile and control structures, then they should be able to pay themselves off in about 6 years. And again, that's with $4 corn and $11 beans in an average year. Again, if we have another 2013-14 prices, get back up, it'll be a lot quicker than that. A few other economic considerations. Like I said, this is on average. You have to think about what your numbers are, what your yields are right now, if you have cover crops or not, which Paul J. kind of alluded to that earlier. It's a study that needs to be done here so we can know more about that. It depends on your soil type, like we discussed, because some soil types require closer centers than others. If you don't require 30-foot centers, obviously your tile is going to pay for itself a lot quicker because it doesn't cost as much. Looking to see if there's equip money. Don't quote me. Think on those water control structures. There may be some money for those. And I know that they are, that is in cost share too, so just a thought. And then also if it has any effects on any type of lease agreements. I know that some banks now, and not all, but there are some banks that if you want to purchase land, they require it to be tiled in order to get that loan. So just another thought for that. So kind of switch gears a little bit and talk about the water control structure. They installed an agri-drain water control structure in Muhlenberg County this past year. And this right here, this is Daryl Simpson. I don't know if you guys know Daryl. He's the Muhlenberg County ag agent. So he worked with Cary, who's the same extension specialist that I'm working with on our water control structure. And this is what they were looking at when they decided to do the water control structure study. They wanted to regulate the water flow in their field tile system, allow water to move out of the soil profile in the spring, allowing them to be able to get on that ground quicker, keep water in the soil profile during growing season, and then of course they want to replicate these results that came from previous studies in other states. Because Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, they've got the data, we don't. So we're trying to change that and get us some good data on these drain tiles and water control structures. Just kind of give you a little background of the study. They planted the corn on May 7th at 30,000 population, and this is their hybrid. As far as fertilization goes, 350 pounds of 923-30 and 170 pounds of anhydrous went down on the field. Now, just to kind of compare rainfall, not a lot of difference in rainfall from 2013 to 2014, because you guys are going to see the yields from 13 to 14, and so I wanted to make sure you guys understood that rain wasn't a big factor in why the yields are so different, because he didn't receive a whole lot more rain in 2014 than he did in 2013. This is this farmer's historical crop yields on the farm that the study was done. And the reason they went all the way to 2000 is because in 2006 is when they tiled. And you can already see just by drain tile alone, the increase in yields. So down here in corn, 146. What happened in 2002? Was that? I can't remember. Maybe a drought year, maybe Or maybe it was 20 degrees in July, who knows? But it was yes, I will. There you go. Sorry, my bottle numbers aren't aligned under the months very well.
We sure got a lot more rain in June and July, and 13, and 14.
That,
4 more inches.
a lot of the water in 13 came up front. And then last year we got it at the end. It's nice.
I just seen 4 more inches at the last of June.
Yeah. Okay, so the before tile, like 146, 58, 136, and then with tile, 177, 144, 190, 218. So pretty significant difference there from when he tiled. Okay, and again, this is the condensed version. How they collected their data off of this study, what they did, they had 2 fields, I think relatively the same size. They were about 5 acres side by side, and both of them were tiled. They put the control structure on one of the fields, did not on the other. To collect their data, they did both a hand harvest and they did the machine harvest. And they did the machine harvest like we do contest, when we do yield contest. So we do a row, we have to skip 3 rows, do another row. That way you don't like hit a honey hole and you take that data. So it was just like it usually is for the contest. On the open field, so with no control structure, they had about 217 bushels an acre, and then you guys can see the moisture, and the moisture wasn't a huge difference between the two, and the test weight wasn't a huge difference either. And then the field with the control structure had 231 bushels an acre. So there was about a 14.5 bushel difference between the water control structure and just the field tile. And again, this was just 1 year. This is when they went through and just harvested all of it then. They've done their hand pick and then they did their contest and just went through the whole thing. And on average, the whole field without control structure was 206 bushels and with control structure was 230. So we're looking at a 24 bushel difference per acre just with the control structure alone. So, and then this is just kind of the summary of it. I guess nuts and bolts, what you guys want to know the most is the dollar sign with 24 bushel difference. And this is at 320 corn. So he took it to the elevator at 320. Just with the control structure per acre, an additional $77.
Put a 5 with that, and that's $120.
Right, exactly. So, had he waited, had he stored it, or come on some other time, with $4 corn, that would have been even more money that you would have made just with the control structure. So, and again, that was the first year for that. They're going to do that study again this year in Mecklenburg County. We're going to replicate it here in McLean County. So I'm anxious to see, how, I guess, similar the data is from year to year. Hopefully last year wasn't just a fluke, which I don't think it was, because with having 2 really good years back to back, I mean 13 and 14 were both good yields for everybody. So as far as I know, I don't know. I didn't see the field.
I'm not even know when they're doing this, how much faster the tile is sealed in versus free flow, you know what I'm saying?
Right. And again, we had the discussion yesterday, I can't tell you where studies are, but the one here, it's not as flat. I know. I wouldn't tell him. He was asking me yesterday about another study. He's like, so where's that one? And I was like, I can't tell you, Paul. I'm sorry. I don't want you to go out there and ruin it.
Filled in with the 1 July flash flood on Steve Graham. Wasn't it?
I didn't know.
Wasn't it? If it was if it was open and clear, and you closed it on one July, flash flood, 2-inch rain, it was sealed in on that one rain, wasn't it? On the low side, wasn't it? On the tail up, wasn't it?
Soil type's gonna have a lot to do with how fast it will seal, I would say. And is it nice thick pipe, is it 40 pipe to use?
Yeah.
But you know, I'm talking about on the Carnax, what I'm thinking about on the gumbo, as flat as it is, and you're dealing with just, I mean, just a 10th fall, you know? You're talking slow water movement anyway, when you just shut it off, I don't know, I was asking.
What I'm saying, let's say you got a quarter-mile field, and it's all the way to the bottom. And you got that, it opened at the bottom. And you see the clouds coming, and you say, okay, I want to save this water from the crop. So you go to that bottom, and you close it, and here comes the flood. And they say it's a 2-inch rain, and it completely fills that 4-inch, 4-inch, completely fills it. Now, all that sediment in that 1/4 inch, however, whatever the soil type, whatever it is, however much that 4-inch, 1/4 inch, 4-inch, all of that sediment that got in there is gonna settle and come all the way down to the bottom and settle right there at that gate, right? Or a lot of it, maybe not every little drop, every little piece, but it's gonna settle down there, right?
Again, I think it's.
I mean, it makes sense to me that it would, a lot of it would. So it's gonna fill up right there. That's gonna be a problem. That's gonna be a problem on slope. Obviously, they're not gonna let you do that on slope.
Well, I guess I don't know, because every main that I've ever seen, I've never seen mud come out of. I haven't ever seen anything come out of it except for water. So I don't know. I'm gonna try to make up something. I don't know.
Obviously, they're not gonna let you do that on very slope.
Well, is these you're talking about, are they gonna be controlled manually, or they, how do you?
No, they're manually. Yeah. They're the ones that have you seen the ADS's water control structures? That's what I
I
think.
spent enough time south of the border there, I didn't know that.
We gotta get you out of Florida if I can tell you.
They have some now that your Apple phone can do it.
Oh, yeah.
But they're costly.
They've got the electronic gates that you can just with your phone.
Yeah.
But the ones that ADS has, they have the plates in them that you can slide in and out depending on what level you want to keep your water at. So they're pretty easy.
You can do it from your kitchen table. They're costly.
Yeah, I like the manual ones, and I'm not just saying that because I'm biased, but I know that technology is a great thing. There's a lot of good things that come from it that we can do with it, but things like that, I want to see those gates are up and down.
But that's the same as everything. It used to be that nobody wanted a cell phone. Everybody wanted to be all dialed down, but everybody's got a cell phone.
Yeah.
So things change.
This, and again, like I said, I know this is what the main thing, that in 1 year of data there at 320 corn, they were able to see a $76 or almost $77 increase per acre per year there. And this is the study in Muhlenberg County. I would assume that it is fairly flat and close to a similar soil type that you would see in the Sac area. So, Now this, I just want to show you all of this, and I apologize if this is a poor quality picture. This is like a picture of someone else's presentation. I wanted to share this because I thought that this was really neat. Dr. Josh McGrath was down here a couple weeks ago, and he talked about nutrient management for water quality. Josh is one of our new soil scientists through the University of Kentucky. He came from Maryland. Josh did a lot of work with that Chesapeake Bay area, a lot. He knows that frontwards and backwards. So I had him down to, I guess, kind of forewarn to let us know, hey, this is what happened up there. This is what you guys can expect to happen here. And did a great job, and he shared this slide, and I thought that this was really neat. These right here, and I won't get this exactly right, but these are like filter boxes that him and a farmer up there developed, and it was a chicken farmer. And they put these, what was it? All their runoff went down tile, and then they ran into these boxes right here. You know, with chicken litter, our problem is phosphates, which remind me to back up with nitrates here in just a second. But there's a problem with the high phosphates. And so these filters, I almost pointed a little red thing in my laptop to show you guys the picture, not even thinking about the pointer needs to go up here, not on my laptop. There, up there was an engine, they made engines at this manufacturing place up there. And whenever they put them in these big, huge tanks with like a lime solution, and whenever that calcium hits those metal shavings, it brings them all to the top. And so then they're able to take those metal shavings and they scrape those off, and they fill them with these boxes. Fill the boxes with these metal shavings. Those metal shavings, they have made this nice new chemical bond with that lime and made some calcium something. I can't remember the second part of that scientific term. But again, I'm just giving you the general gist of it. And so whenever that water, that runoff hits that box, that phosphate reacts with that calcium magic word, and it bonds. So it pulls it out of that water. And then the water can run through the filter. Kind of a neat deal. Like, I was impressed by, I mean, for lack of better terms, was very impressed with these. I'm hoping that maybe Josh would agree to work with us on some of these, because I think that's a pretty neat deal. I think we just have to figure out how to get a hold of these magic calcium something metal shavings that can remove phosphates from water. So, and it wasn't, and I know, Paul J., you and I have talked about how my dream is to one day build this awesome filter that can put on a main and remove all the nitrates from it. Yeah, so I need, I guess, tap into that inner engineering chemist that I'm not really that good at, but I'm figuring out how to do that. But I thought that these were really neat. Just kind of wanted to talk to you guys about them. So I think there's some neat stuff coming down the pipeline. We talked about that ag water quality plan. We know that times may get tough with it, but there may be a light at the end of that tunnel with those phosphates. And one thing I forgot to mention on control structures, one of the biggest benefits, nitrates. Helps remove those nitrates from your runoff. So that is my economics of tiling water control structures in a nutshell. Any questions?